Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of autism, where the true crime is as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases. But the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Keep your arms, legs, and other extremities in the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show. Oh, good morning.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Como se va?
I know how to say, excuse me, have you seen my pants? I'm a pineapple. That is about all I can say is French. Aside from...
Morning.
Oui, oui, titi, croissant.
I want a shirt with that.
I do too. Josh will start quoting it. Like,
I love it.
I picked up the phone the other day to talk to one of my cousins, and I was like, bonjour. And he's like, oui, oui, titi, croissant. And I was like, he's not married to me. Not at all.
The fact he does it enough at work. I love it.
Oh my god. So I think it's my turn today.
Yay!
Let's see here. I'm going to be talking about a not so fun state today, where something was atrociously done. Obviously, we're talking about murder, you know.
That doesn't help on what state it is.
Missouri, actually. So, if we have any listeners that are part of Missouri, please let us know. We do have comments. Would you like me to read the last couple of comments?
Yes, I'm so happy we've gotten comments.
We've gotten comments. We have it from our lovely Tiffany, who has outed herself as Dora the Explorer. So she commented on every episode she's listened to.
Holy Christ.
Our lovely Luna Faye, which is our Donnie Don Don from Jersey, she wrote, attention witches, goblins, horror fans, haunted house aficionados, and true crime thrill seekers. Join our awesome hosts as they fearlessly explore haunted locales, unravel hair-raising true crimes, and reveal everything that goes bump in the night. Get ready for an electrifying experience that will keep you on the edge of your seat that makes you want to come back for more. Can we just...
I love that.
I love Dawn so much.
That was amazing.
Today I learned you can comment on podcasts. 7 out of 7. Very creepy, very enjoyable on Come On Barney,
Very
No More
spooky.
Party. Very spooky. Coastal Thriller, The Green River Killer. Dora wrote 12 out of 10. Probably my favorite true crime story. The Donner and Dyatlov, 25 out of 10. This kept me on the edge the whole time, especially Dyatlov Pass. Beds, Breakfasts, and Booze, the episode we did with Meg. 12 out of 10 spooky. This episode made me paranoid about ghosts.
A
You
valid
weren't
fear.
before, you are now.
Right. And the most recent one is from, I have two most recent ones, which is Let's Have a Sleepover and Play D&D. Super fun episode. As much as I enjoyed the movie for Amityville Horror, I've always thought that the hauntings were a bit far-fetched, but the creep factor from the movie did make things creepier. This Jersey girl will take a hard pass on visiting the home. That's a nope from me. Keep the episodes coming.
You can deal with the Jersey Devil, but you can't deal with the Amityville Horror.
Look, the Jersey Devil was an actual person. Okay? The Amityville
Are we
Whorehouse?
sure?
That is on my list, so shush. I will not talk about it today. The last comment was, never apologize for the ADHD. That's the best part of the podcast. Love this episode. Short, sweet, and worked for my ADHD.
Thanks, we love the ADHD too.
We do.
That's why we fully embrace it.
Absolutely. If you guys leave comments, I will read it on air. And our lovely Emily went to go see the vampires the other
I
day.
got blood.
They did a good job. No bruise, no
They
nothing.
did a great job. I didn't feel the poke.
Who?
Sadly, my kidneys aren't working.
Yeah.
I'm dying.
Womp, womp,
But
womp.
the poke was great, and I found out some awesome news about the podcast.
What would that be?
So the person that poked me used to work with the local police department.
Oh, we love that.
Yeah. And they used your podcast episode of Rachel Hansen.
What?
Yeah.
Shut up. Okay.
Yep. They used it to show how easy it is to find information.
Uh-huh.
And if it's out there, people will find it.
Correct.
All it takes is some digging.
Yep. So it was used to help teach their forensics class.
On how to document better, or how to.
I don't know. I didn't pry. I was just like, oh yeah, that pot. Yeah, here. Also, wow, that was really good. Do you want to see a husky? Because me with 20-something tattoos, does not do well with needles.
Well, do you remember their name?
I do not. And so I checked my blood work to see if it popped up on the blood work, and it does not pop up on the blood work. But I do know, super cool person, and I hope to see you again.
So, person at
the VA.
At the VA. If you listen to our podcast, please leave us a comment. Let us know, and we'll definitely give you a shout out on the next episode. But here's to you. Let's give cheers.
No.
Love that. We had a lot of really good information about the Rachel podcast, and I'm really happy that a lot of people are listening to it and sending out as much information as they can. It still sucks, but
oh yeah,
we have more eyes on the case.
We do have more eyes on the case. Now there's a private eye, and I've talked to Kim a few times, and reached out to her, and
how's she doing?
She's doing okay. She's done a couple of
local interviews.
Couple of news interviews, and let them know that they're getting the word out and everything like that. So, I mean, every little bit helps, which is great. So it's just right now just putting one foot in front of the other until we get more information. But we definitely did help, so I'm very grateful about that. But back to today, we're going to be talking about a terrible murder case in Missouri, which needs a unfortunate trigger warning. This is a Pandemonium Witches podcast trigger warning. The following episode contains graphic violence and gruesome depictions. Listener discretion is advised. Did you know that this is terrible. The capital of Missouri is not Branson or St. Louis. It's Jefferson City.
Seriously?
Yeah. Little known fact. And that the state flower is Crataegus punctua, also known as the dotted hawthorn.
Bless you.
Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about a wonderful woman who could go right to hell, named Bertha Gifford. I don't even want to change her name to something different, because just the name Bertha. I know some wonderful women named Bertha, let me tell you that.
This is not one of them.
No.
I named my lawnmower Bertha.
Yes, you did. You also named one of your cars Bertha.
You know what else I named Bertha?
We're not going to talk about that.
Your jug.
It's back!
It's back! So, you good there?
What the fuck?
The water about came out of the jug.
I was going to say, I was like, what the fuck just happened?
I think I broke it.
You
Bertha, wait.
Well, we're going to be talking about Bertha Gifford, who was born on October 30th, 1871. She shares quite a lot of birthdays with quite a lot of famous people, but we're not going to give her any fucks. She was known as Missouri's first serial killer. So she's got that little pin on her wall. She's had several shows, podcasts, and YouTubes feature her story, including our lovely goddess of the night, Bailey Sarian. But let's hydrate and get ready to dehydrate, bitches. So, not only was she born on October 30th, 1871, she was a Scorpio.
Oh, that explains so much.
I know. Hold on. We're going to put a pause.
Would you like to share with the class?
So, I about shit myself the other night when Josh and I were coming home because, I see ghosts and shit. So I saw something the other day and we're closing the garage door and all of a sudden a large just ta-tunk sounded right behind me and I literally almost shit myself. And it's because somebody had tried to do something to the garage door and it has a crack in the, so they're coming to replace that today.
Oh boy.
But it's covered under our rental, so that's good.
Somebody tried to break in?
I don't know, but they said it wasn't time that did the crack, so...
It wasn't normal wear and tear.
Correct.
Well, they tried to break into the wrong house.
Let me tell you. So, back to the facts. William Poindexter Williams and Matilda Neely were her parents. Bertha was one of 10 children.
God, the Lord said, be fruitful and multiply. He did not mean just you.
Right. So there's not a lot listed about her life prior to the murders, but it looks like she had lived pretty simple and quiet life. She had been married to Henry Graham, which I love that name, and they had a daughter named Lila. Graham and Bertha ran a boarding house, though, while they were married. And during the 1800s and early 1900s, that was pretty common.
Yeah.
You know where this is going, Rachel.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So
it's always the boarding houses.
I was about
the 1800s.
Don't tell me it's another boarding house murder.
Suffer, suckers.
Come on, guys. Be more creative.
Well,
murder them in the barn.
It was the 1800s. They didn't have creativity. That's why they ended up having a shit ton of kids.
Right. I mean, what else are you gonna
do?
It's not Netflix and chill. It's gas lamps and chill. So
gaslight and chill.
It's kerosene lamps and chill.
Burning all like kerosene. E-I-E-I-O. So, they ran a boarding house while they were married, and it was located in Jefferson County, which is now known as the Morse Mill Hotel. Yes, it is still open. In 1920, of course. In 1928, Bertha was well known in her town for her cooking abilities, as well as her compassion for sick neighbors and relatives. She was said to be the kind, nice woman who wore a white dress and carried a satchel to see sick neighbors.
What's with the white dresses?
Look, we've already discussed this. You need to not wear white when you die. Known as the tireless attender of funerals, a visitor of sick persons. This is literally directly from an article. A visitor of sick persons and a connoisseur of stories dealing with violence, illness, or blood. She often visited.
I want to bake a pie now.
Illnesses and blood make you want to make a pie?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Remind myself not to eat Emily's pies.
But they're delicious.
They are.
I mean, if illness and blood make you want to make pies, I don't know if I want that kind of pie. Mrs. Lovett.
Eat my shit.
No, you just did.
So she often visited sick neighbors. In one case, bringing tomato, milk, and butter and staying for hours administering medicine. Her husband, on the other hand, was said to keep company with a friend. And the marriage became bitter and mean and marked by loud quarrels. However, infidelity crept into Bertha's marriage, possibly on her side as well. Henry found out that Bertha was having an affair with local Eugene Gifford. Gene was a good-looking and affordable carpenter and farmer. One of the larger houses he built in Morris Mill still stands, and he helped design and construct the first permanent building for Church of God.
Good for him.
Yeah.
So obviously he knew what he was doing with building wise because, the buildings are still around.
I
Right.
guess you could say he was good with his hands.
I mean...
I said that with a straight fucking face.
You did. It was a graceful white country church with delicate needle-like steeple. So it was pretty normal looking. But he was a popular man around the region. Good worker, fine storyteller, good friend.
And single.
And single. But people said he changed after taking up with Bertha.
Wonder why.
At the time, he was engaged to be married, but quickly broke that off. Folks around Morris Mill muttered that Bertha, now in her early 30s and still one of the most beautiful women in town, was exerting a strange influence over Jean. And that they didn't come out right and say it, but they thought what it was.
She's a witch.
Yep.
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft.
A woman has control of her sexuality. She's got to be a witch.
Welcome to the podcast. That's what we are. Not long after Jean and Bertha began spending time together, Bertha's husband came down with what was diagnosed as pneumonia. He held on for a while, but even rallied Bertha in constant attendance at his bedside.
Well, yeah, because if she wasn't, it would be very suspicious. So obviously, your husband's sick, you're going to be tending to his every need, because otherwise they're going to be like, you murdered him.
I don't know. I would be more concerned, like, she was cheating on him, he was cheating on her.
Right.
She should be by his side. She gonna murder him.
But 1800s.
Right.
Aqua Tofana.
Which is requested. So.
Yes.
Ooh. Let me find my old notes on that.
You are good. You can cover Aqua Tofana. So, he held on for a while. Bertha at his bedside. But the disease weakened him. Now, with pneumonia, you have pressure in your chest and in your throat, right?
Yeah.
Not stomach cramps.
No.
The disease weakened him and he developed complications. Violent, agonizing stomach cramps.
Sounds like arsenic.
He was 34 years old when he died of pneumonia. Allegedly. Do you think they did an autopsy?
No.
He might have actually had pneumonia, and then she just kind of furthered it along.
Shortly after Graham died, Bertha married Eugene. And they moved to Catawissa. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Raising James and Lila together. They began living in a tin cottage.
That's interesting.
Which was located directly across the train tracks. They moved to a white farmhouse on the Bend Road. That's the name of the road. The Bend Road. I did look that up. Which runs alongside the Merrimack River a few years later. The farmhouse was dubbed the Catawissa Mystery House later, after all of this. Bertha poisoned 9 of her victims there, according to the reporter Houseman, which I quoted for a good chunk of my stuff. Which, of course, I'll be posting links on the podcast. Bertha had a passion for deathbeds and funerals, of which she missed only one in 18 years. But just as
Which one did she miss?
Her own.
I mean, I would say she was pretty present for that, though.
So, as kids sometimes become overenthusiastic about running into fires, they finally get some themselves. This deathbed fan is, as she was charged, couldn't resist temptation with anyone who started to withdraw from the edge of their grave and began to push them in with a little bit of arsenic.
I called it!
She took command of the funerals too and liked to see that everything was done precisely, even going so far as to pay for the embalming of one of her victims.
Interesting.
Bertha was not a nurse, but she was a competent volunteer, and one of the doctors knew her very well. So she could keep temperature and nourishment chart and understood symptoms and drugs, and therefore was allowed discretion by doctors as bedside nurse.
She got her license from Florida.
Sounds about right. Also, that recipe that I did this morning that I just pulled out of my ass that I was like, I didn't really think it was going to work. My house smells like chicken pot pie right now. It is so good.
Oh, yes. We're having chicken pot pie for dinner too.
We're having deconstructed, but it's going to be on protein pasta, and I'm going to add peas and broccoli.
Ours is a soup.
Okay, so I did, a stick of butter, 2 cups of water, 1/8 of a cup of wine, because I have that white cooking wine, and then I did
the good stuff.
I did a 1/4 cup of my homemade gravy mix.
Ooh.
And then I added...
Just throwing shit together.
I added black pepper, a pinch of salt, the Kinder's herb and garlic, and I threw that in with some parsley. Let me tell you, this bitch is delicious. It smells so good. And I put in 6 chicken breasts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shred it.
Oh, I don't have chicken breast. I have canned chicken.
Use canned chicken.
I mean, it works.
That's what I normally do for pot pies, is I do canned chicken.
Good enough.
It's already nice and sized.
Yeah, it's already tinned up.
Well, I cut it up even more so it spreads further.
Mm. Well,
anyway,
it's already small enough sizes.
Yeah, but if I shred it up even more, it can go further, and then I can use like 1.5 instead of 2 full to 3 cans.
It'll take less work to shred it from the already smaller sizes than it would for the whole chicken breast.
Oh,
you figured it out, Emily?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's still early.
I don't know. I've got one of those chicken shredder thingies.
I remember.
Oh, that's cool.
So, Bertha had a preference for her victims.
Of course she did.
She preferred children.
Ah! On site.
The fuck?
Yeah.
The fuck?
So, the police say this was because they would trustfully swallow anything that she gave them, as long as it didn't taste nasty.
I mean, that's most kids, though, so I can understand that.
And they never presumed to correct any misstatement that she made to the doctor.
Well, especially for that time period, you're going to take this and...
Take it or be beat.
Yeah, basically.
1 second, I will be right back.
Gotta pee?
No.
Gotta let the people in.
Gotta let the people in.
God, what is it with these people? First, not only is it boarding, right? Boarding house.
Right.
Children.
But the children. Why the children?
Yeah, like, I guess I could see it because, like, they're easier targets because, like, they're weaker than, like, a full-grown man or, like, a full-grown adult.
The children.
Think of the children. I am, come here.
I was not saying technically she was, but not in the best of ways.
Exactly. Like,
not in the ways we would prefer it.
But like, I'm just thinking, like, there's so many boarding house like killings.
Yep. That's why as soon as she said like the time frame, it has middle.
Damn it!
I was like, I already know where this is going. And so that's why she was like, Rachel, you already know where this is going. I was like, yep, I already do.
Like, why can't we have done like an inn, a hostel, even like a train killing? Can you imagine how confused those ghosts would be?
Just constantly riding on the train. Never, but like the fact that they're constantly stuck on the train, never getting to their destination. Like, that's also like kind of really sad,
That's like their personal hell.
right?
See, my thing would be like they're constantly stuck on a train that is, like, in a sense, always upgrading and updating.
Oh man.
Like, that would be my hell,
Oh, that's even worse.
you know?
What did I miss?
We were talking shit.
Obviously, I'm not here.
Just go back and listen to it later.
Yeah. I don't even think you need to put music.
It was just like literally like ramblings.
So
Conversation.
we have to get a couple of things replaced on the shit. Where did I put my phone? Hold on.
You gotta replace your shit.
Damn it.
Apparently.
How do you replace shit?
I don't know, but she's losing her shit too.
Yeah.
I mean, which is right on par for this podcast, but
Yeah. Oh, man.
Okay.
There she is.
I
Miss
left
America.
America.
my what?
Emily said, "There she is," and I said, "Miss America."
Here she is, Captain Trash Panda. So
It's me.
when Bertha took charge of her patient, all right, she took command of the whole house, like not just the patient care. So she ordered certain things in and certain things out of the sick room.
But that makes sense though, because
Right.
you know, you need things and in order.
Oh no! Frank took her voice. Oh no! We must sacrifice. We have to sacrifice the possums to get it back.
No,
Not the
it
possums.
was me getting a random solicitation call that I started speaking Spanish. So when they call back, I'm going to start speaking German. And then when they call back again, I'm going to speak French. And then
Oh my
from
God.
there, I'm going to go to Latin. You know, it's great that you know multiple languages, you know?
When I went and got my wax done, my waxer, she got a spam call and she was like, I don't even know this number. And I said, oh, here, hand it here. I can speak French. And I picked up the phone and I started speaking French. And this poor woman started speaking Spanish to me.
She was trying.
And I was like, parlez-vous anglais? Parlez-vous français? No. Click.
Oh my God. Like, Josh got a phone call the other day and I answered it in Spanish. And then they started to respond back in Spanish. So I responded in Italian. And then she laughed and then hung up. And I was like, all right, cool.
But the fact that, you know, Spanish and Italian, the language is so similar that she was just like, it just probably threw her off and she just like, I ain't dealing with this shit.
Right.
I don't get paid enough.
Right. I feel sorry for her, but, you know, at the same time, not really. They stole money
I
from...
would rather answer in a different language
Yes.
and be respectful like that
Yes.
than like shout at them because they get that day in and day out.
Right.
Right.
I mean, a guy called me the other day and I was like, listen, bro, I know you have a quota. Don't talk to me right now. I'm trying to be nice. And he goes, and I was like, I need you to shut up right now. I'm currently on my period and my uterus is trying to kill me. You have 5 seconds to explain yourself. And he goes, I'll take you off our call list and put you on our do not call list. Thank you very much. Click. Very respectful. Very nice.
Still got the point across.
Yes. So Bertha took over the household, right?
Yeah.
Good for her.
I mean, not really, because then she used it to kill the kids, so.
Right. But, like,
Bad for her.
good for her in the point that it comes back to bite her in the ass. I explain. So,
Okay.
So the family relied on her because of countless years of experience and knowledge. So early in the evening, in her kind and professional manner, she would turn to the mother and say, "Now, my dear, I want you to go to bed and get a good night's rest so you can take my place tomorrow. Don't worry, I'm here. I'll take care of the kid." So, of course, the parents left, right?
And the kid then died.
Shortly before the rising hour the next morning, which was about 5, 6 o'clock, when she roused the family and telephoned the doctor, the little patient would be too far gone to dispute the nurse's statement that, in turn for the worse, had just come in. The parents would comfort themselves with the thought that their baby had the best care in its last hours and had noted that Bertha wept harder than the family.
Yeah, I don't trust anyone that says that.
Mm-hmm. So Sherman Pounds was related to Gene Gifford, his uncle, possibly. Sherman was a widower with 5 children. One of them was still a tiny baby, and someone else was taking care of her. But Sherman was raising the other 4 by himself. He could be a father and a mother to those kids. Emily knows where I'm going. So he was a very strong man. Some people say he was the strongest man in Catawissa. But he had a weakness. He liked to go into town and get drunk every weekend.
God damn.
One of his sons used to follow him into town and dog every step of his until he got his father back home. That last time, though, he wasn't able to get to his father. Sherman started back from the bar late at night, but only made it to the Gifford house. They took him in. He died there. But, 1917. This is back at the time where people would actually be like, "Oh, you're just drunk. Just come in, sleep it off in the front room,"
In the parlor.
You're right. He was 53 years old when he died, and the doctor said his cause of death was excessive drink.
Which, I mean, with his track record.
Right.
But also, his wife just died, and so...
Like, do you blame him?
Right.
He is in full-on mourning and depressed. Like, I don't blame him, but at the same time, like...
My man is the depresso espresso.
Right.
You still have other kids to take care of. Like, I get being functioning alcoholic, but try not to get that far gone that your child has to make sure you get home safely. Like,
right.
Every night have to go and follow you to make sure you get home. Like,
well,
that's just too far.
He died right after Valentine's Day, February 20th, 1917. Everyone knew he was a heavy drinker after his wife passed, and the doctor signed the death certificate to say so. The stomach cramps that had come on during the night were a result of acute alcoholism.
I mean,
it works, considering the fact that your kidney and your liver shut down due to alcoholism.
Yeah, so it would make sense.
Which is why, unfortunately, Emily, I cannot give you a kidney.
It's okay. If my dad and my uncle are any indication, I can live on just one working side of my body.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
That's eerily comforting.
I made myself sad.
I'm sorry. Well, do you want me to keep going?
Little moment of silence there.
I hate you. All right. So, there was no autopsy, no inquiry, no nothing. Small, modest funeral, and a thing in the paper stating that he died from alcoholism.
Yeah.
The fact that he died in her home was not thought of...
suspicious.
No, it was not thought of as suspicious or anything aside from the least, because he was considered family, and that Bertha was at everybody's bedside when they died.
I mean, it's suspicious now looking back.
Right. The things we see. So, Catawissa was a town that was completely cut off, kind of like the town that I used to live in. One small general store, there's a diner and a gas station.
Town.
Very small, nothing really around. And so There was no emergency medical help for miles. Pacific, the town in Missouri, was at least 45 minutes away across the river. And the only one doctor in Catawissa that he had a lot of territory to cover, the whole town,
Yeah.
plus some. It often took a long time to contact him after he had seen his patients, and he certainly would be the one that would stay around to nurse his patients. But since he couldn't afford a lot, especially good nurses, he would employ people like Bertha.
Yeah.
So now Catawissa is just a speck on the map. You know, it's not really a big town, or it's kind of like one of those towns in The Walking Dead, barely noticeable kind of thing. But back in the 1900s, it had a crossroads with a sign, a bar, a small store, a railroad station, and a post office.
Hey, it had a railroad station. You were big news.
Right.
Yeah.
But it had a population of 125 people. That's not.
I mean, for back then, that
was huge.
fairly good.
That was fairly good. It's kind of suburban. Located about 10 miles southwest of the developed town of Pacific. A few old timers call it Catawissa and say that the name of how it used to be pronounced back when the town had a life of its own, they said. The name, no matter how anyone pronounces it, was borrowed from a town in Pennsylvania, and was home to many of the men laying track for San Francisco Railroad in the 1860s. So, the first people who suspected Bertha, I'm going to give you 3 guesses. Who were the first people to suspect Bertha originally?
The doctors.
No.
I was about to say, the doctor was over the moon for her help. He wouldn't have suspected her for anything, because that would mean getting rid of somebody he relies on.
So it's not the doctor.
Was it old guy's children? Interesting.
One more guess.
Was it the mortician?
Nope.
Who was it?
The women.
You know, that makes sense.
So,
it makes sense.
Right, because she was always there swooping in right before, they started to get better, and then suddenly they die.
Like, All Might, I am here.
So the men scoffed at the women, saying that Catawissa, right, that they all had a real contact with Bertha, that she would take care of everyone. She didn't have a mean bone in her body.
Bullshit.
She struck them as being quiet,
red
reserved,
flags.
Super red flags. They called her shy, hardly talking at all, except when they asked her something. But, red flag, they noticed she had a powerful influence over Gene, and that he often changed plans to suit her. But they paid little attention to her because she was a great cook and a good homemaker.
Girl.
So the women kept putting...
Of course, the men also were like, oh, well, she's really good looking. Like, why would she do something like this?
I mean, even in her 30s, she was still turning heads.
Right.
Still in my 40s, people think I'm 25, which is great.
We love that.
I went to a baby shower the other day. They're like, you couldn't be older than 28. I was like, you fools.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a 2,000-year-old.
22-step skincare routine.
No skincare routine. Soap. Water.
The absolute horror on everyone's face. I mean, I just use a washcloth that hasn't been used on my butt yet.
I mean, I wash my face and use a face mask once a week, and I only break out right here when the changing of the seasons. That's it.
So we found out why I've been breaking out so bad.
Okay. Why?
My testosterone levels are that of a 32-year-old man.
Well,
lovely.
Now we know what's wrong with that. Are they able to fix it? Give you estrogen or something?
No.
Uh-oh.
Because of my hormone levels, so they're gonna put me on something to try to figure out my hormone levels first.
Damn.
Fun. Time to play Russian roulette with the hormones.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
I do
So-
not envy
I'm a
you.
man. Want to go to war?
War!
Want a lightsaber?
War! So they paid no attention to her, but the women were still hard pressed. They were
They were starting to put two and two together.
lay their sights on this woman. So anyone who helped her in the kitchen during dinner parties, making dinner, went shopping with her, they were aware of the fact that Bertha was obsessed with death. And not just like us. No. They knew that she loved to read about murders, talk about murders and accidents. She talked about it.
Respectfully obsessed.
Yes, we are respectfully obsessed. She was like
Crazy obsessed.
Emily, how do you say it? Disgusting.
What?
How do you say disgusting?
Disgusting.
That.
Disgustingly.
That. So no one put two and two together, right? So when Ed Brinley died, which was the 9th in her house of the mystery of itself, and the 17th person under Bertha's care, all with the same symptoms,
17.
they demanded an investigation. All of the women in the town demanded an investigation into Bertha. They called her a bedside saint who had consecrated her life by volunteering. So, authorities took notice and investigated Bertha. You want to know what she said?
It wasn't me, officer.
It was all plausible. They were from acute gastritis caused by the rural habitat of eating a heavy dinner at noon and then laboring on a full stomach instead of having the main meal at night after the day's work is over.
I mean, kind of makes sense.
Yes.
I would believe it more if she said it was from unpasteurized milk.
Also valid.
Also valid. So the physicians may have been satisfied because they issued death certificates for Ed. And the rest of the people. But do you think the town gossip died down?
No, hell no.
If anything, it was fan to the flames.
So Dr. James Stewart, the state health commissioner, might have thought they did because he had records of drugstores in the neighboring towns examined and learned that Mrs. Gifford, little Miss Bertha, had been a steady customer of arsenic rat poison, which produces symptoms quite similar to gastritis.
Mm-hmm.
So, although she made purchases in some cases just before the deaths in question, Bertha was outraged in her innocence.
It wasn't me.
And was threatening slander lawsuits.
Oh my god.
And it was brought over to a grand jury. Brat, what the fuck Midwest was that shit?
I mean, we are in Missouri right now. So.
I know, seriously. Okay. That's wonderful. Off topic. So, the cases of coincidences, which you and I both know, all three of us know, there is no coincidence in murder.
Nope.
So, let's see here. The original cases go back to 1909 when nobody thought it was strange that Mr. Graham, her last husband, died of cramps in the middle of the night right before the doctor arrived. You remember the doctor we talked about before?
Mm-hmm.
The one that hired her? Yeah.
The next have an accomplice.
The next note stated to have potamine poisoning. Let me pull
what?
Bless you.
Potamine poisoning. It's a term that was once used to describe food poisoning, but is no longer in scientific circles. It was used in 1888 and coined by the Italian chemist Salimi. It was commonly used to explain large outbreaks of food poisoning. Need us remember the Chipotle incident of 2007.
Okay.
So, that was in 1913. Her new mother-in-law, Miss Emily Gifford, in spite of Bertha's seemingly heroic efforts, also passed away from poisoning. So here Bertha's grief was not so great, but considered adequate as it being her mother-in-law. And a year later, her 13-year-old brother-in-law, James Gifford, passed out in her arms with the same symptoms.
Ha!
Including
She's
vomiting.
striking too close to home right now.
Right. You don't shit where you eat.
Mm.
Then comes Ed Brinley and his two brothers, Elmer and Lloyd Schimmel. Those three, their bodies were dug up and inspected for proof.
Ooh, now we get into the good stuff.
Rachel, what do you think the proof was?
Arsenic.
Well, the Schimmel deaths had come so close together, not even that far apart. The boys had been in perfect health. They had all died. Nothing had happened. The last victim, Ed Brinley, who was a butcher in Pacific, lost his shop because of his drinking. He had become a farmhand and worked for Jean. George Schimmel testified to the deaths of the two boys, which were the brothers. I worked off and on for the Giffords for 18 years. I went to the Gifford place once in 1925 on a Saturday night. It was the very next day, the Sabbath. My boy Lloyd, 9 years old, had stomach cramps. 2 days later, he died after being sick at his stomach all the time. The doctor said it was acute gastritis, but I didn't know what caused it. There was no postmortem. 5 weeks later, my other boy, Elmer, he was 7 years old, got sick with stomach cramps. He lived 2 days too. They said it was the same gastritis. There was no postmortem. I always trusted the Giffords, and I thought it was just my luck when the boys had died. That was a direct quote from him. Hardly a month after Elmer's funeral, Miss Guilford learned that Mrs. Leona Slocum, Schimmel's sister, a tuberculosis sufferer, was sinking.
Set her eyes on another victim.
So Bertha put on her uniform, rushed to her bedside, and sure enough, Mrs. Slocum rallied so strongly that they were just telling the Good Samaritan that there was no longer any need for her to stay. When suddenly, she developed...
She tanked.
Yeah, she tanked. She developed the same stuff as before, stomach pains, nausea, and then kicked the bucket. After that, the survivors of the Schimmel family were not exactly suspicious and decided that Bertha, or Mrs. Gifford was unlucky. But the Scholfelders took a chance once more with Mrs. Mary Scholfelder, 74, and with an invariable result, death from gastritis. Quite similar were the last moments of James Ogle, a hired man of the Giffords, who had incidentally complained that he could not collect the money that they owed him. So Bertha, however, paid the money in time just for him to have his funeral.
Oh, how nice.
Ironic.
So there was a S. Sherman Pounds, one of the strongest physical specimens in the neighborhood, indulged a bit too much in his own of hard cider, fell asleep in the Gifford pasture. Bertha brought him up to the house, gave him something to sober up, and he died, which is who we talked about earlier. There was the sudden onset of the same stomach trouble for Grandma Bertie Unerstall, just as Bertha dropped off for a visit while everyone was away and brought her some home cooking. Mrs. Laura Brown of East St. Louis, aunt of 7-year-old Mary Brown and one of Miss Gifford's alleged poison victims, tells a sample of Mrs. Gifford's nursing one afternoon, 2.5 months before Mary died, she laying ill in the bedroom. I entered. Mrs. Gifford was sitting by bedside, seemed annoyed by my presence. I had come all the way from
why.
right. I had come all the way from East St. Louis to Catawissa to visit the sick child and mentioned I was tired. She urged, "Why don't you lie down and take a little nap?" The last of the list was Ed Brinley, which we discussed earlier, a neighbor and another cider victim who rested for a fatal moment against the post box outside the Gifford house. Bertha spotted him and ordered her husband to carry him inside. 2 hours later, he also met his death with the same symptoms as everyone else. On May 15th, 1927, Ed staggered drunk to the Giffords' front door. After sitting for a few moments, he got up, walked outside where he collapsed on the road. Jean helped him back in and put him in the bed. The next morning, after drinking some lemonade prepared by good old Bertha, he developed stomach pain and died that afternoon in agony. Do you know what bit her in the ass?
Someone survived.
Bertha told a neighbor.
Oh my God.
Bertha
What?
had told her neighbor that it was a good thing if Brinley died, for his mother would not have to worry no more. The remark would be remembered and talked about later. So would...
Yeah, because that's not something you just blatantly say.
So would her trip, that said neighbor noticed when she went to the pharmacy. One trip too many.
She was out.
Right. She had gotten far too much arsenic, rat poison. So when all of the bodies, most of the bodies, were found poisoned in Eureka, Missouri, she was arrested and charged with murder. Good. 6 months after Ed's death, the Franklin County Grand Jury began their investigation. She was arrested on August 25th, 1928, and it was noted that she fought them, stating it needed...
Physically?
Yes.
Did she throw hands?
Yes. Stating they needed to die, and it was necessary for them to die.
At this point, she gone insane.
She's Delulu. So,
I'm not saying, what she did was right, but, if she had just kept going with, the little bit of deaths that she was doing in the beginning, she could have gone her whole life kept doing it, but she got insane and power hungry.
Wanted more.
And so she ramped it up because she was chasing that high and proceeded to get caught.
Right. Well, my honey.
Oh. Hello, brother.
He's at work.
Bonjour, bitch.
So, Bertha was enraged by getting arrested. She threatened libel suits against anyone who said a word about her. Even the normally quiet Jean verbally assaulted neighbors he thought were gossiping about her nickname, the Catawissa Prisoner.
At least it's not something else.
Right. Well, it worked. Witnesses scheduled to appear before the jury suddenly had nothing to say. The case dried up, and the jury refused to enter an indictment. 8 months later, the prosecutor, Frank Jenny, tried again. This time, he had done his homework on her. He went before the jury armed with poison ledgers from the Pacific Pharmacies, which is the local town, and his witnesses showed up with their tongues wagging. So, August 23rd, she's almost been, it's been a while. Oh no, that was supposed to be 1927, excuse me. She was arrested in 1927. Anyways, so the jury returned with an indictment charging Bertha Gifford with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Edward Brinley and Elmer Schmel. During the course of the second investigation, the Giffords left Franklin County and moved to Eureka, and that's where Chief Andrew McDonnell of Webster Groves found them on August 25th. After placing After placing Bertha under arrest, he drove her to his office and gave her a bite to eat. He talked to her quietly and shrewdly as she chatted him about many things, but she came back to one topic. People were talking about her and saying terrible things. They said that she killed Belua Pounds with arsenic, but she didn't do it, Bertha insisted. The girl died from eating too much foods and nuts.
I mean, depending on what kind of nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
was it cherry pits have arsenic in it?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to eat a lot of cherry pits.
Right.
Yeah.
Really?
You only have to eat 3 cherries with the pits intact in order to die from arsenic poisoning.
The more you know.
The more you know. I had to research that for this case. So
her explanation was, oh, she just ate like 3 cherry pits.
right.
Still suspicious.
Super suspicious. So,
Because, like, why aren't you watching the kid?
right. So September 1st, the state health commissioner issued a scathing statement about the actions of the doctor in Catawissa. It's a physician's duty to determine the cause of death before filing a death certificate. It is his duty to the community in which he practices and to himself. The commissioner ordered a Bureau of Vital Statistics to refuse any certificate lacking a concise and clear statement of the cause of death. So that means anybody who was dying in Catawissa from then on had to have an autopsy.
Good.
During the 3rd week of September, the bodies of Brindley and Chamel brothers were exhumed and large quantities of arsenic were found in their vital organs.
Of course.
So now we're on to the trial. The trial began November 19th and lasted for 4 days. Once again, the case made big headlines. Reporters flocked. They combed the back roads and the neighbors for stories, and as expected, the courtroom was jam-packed.
Of course. It's the biggest news in a while.
Right. The prosecutor chose to try the Brindley murder first and announced that he would seek the death penalty, the gallows, for Bertha. So, of course, there was more people in attendance after that.
Oh, yes. Because they're like, ooh, we might get a hanging out of this?
Right.
Death penalty. Death penalty. Yeah.
So, during her trial, Bertha, again, stated she was innocent and that the poisonings were not done on purpose. The trial lasted 3 days and she was only on trial for 3 of her victims out of more than 17, because we covered...
Because those were the only 3 they could actually prove.
Right. So, George Stolfelder told the grand jury how this ministering angel, for whom he felt nothing but gratitude at the time, had nursed his 3 children, Bernard, 15 months, Margaret, 2 years, and Irene, 7 years, for small ailments which promptly turned into acute gastritis and ended in death for each of them. Evidence then emerged that she had purchased rat poison from local druggists hours before the victims died.
On
I
site.
hate her.
On site.
According to Houseman, there is no pattern to her murders. Her victims' ages ranged from 15 months to 72 years.
Okay, so she didn't have a specific age range in mind, but everything else
Matched up. They were all ill, or they fell ill with certain consequences.
Or she made them fall ill.
Right. When it came to Ed, even the men admitted that it was odd how he died. The grand jury thought so too, and indicted Bertha for murder, but she still persisted her denials until Andrew McConnell, chief of the police of Webster's Groves, which is a suburb in St. Louis, noticed that the prisoner seemed specially annoyed at the suggestion that she had poisoned Belua Mounds, the 3-year-old daughter of S. Herman Pounds. He harped detectives until it was investigated, at which point she snapped at him. Quote, transcripts. Well, anyway, I did not give any arsenic to that Pounds child. To whom did you give it to? Asked the chief. Her answer, he says, was a confession that she had poisoned Brinley, the Chamel boys, and perhaps a few others. Her excuse was that she wanted to put them out of their misery, and Brinley's body was exhumed and stomach showed poisoning. Since the confession, Bertha's chief ambition was to avoid being photographed. And some of
Did it
the
work?
Are there
Did it work?
photographs of her?
Like, are there any photographs? Oh,
all right, hold on.
Gimme.
gimme.
All right. So this one is from Find a Grave, which is from the trial.
Oh, straight up turned her head and everything.
Yep.
Damn.
And this one was from right before she had gotten arrested. It was just a regular portrait. But
Yeah,
this one is from an actual newspaper clipping, and those are, she's, I believe it's the middle photo. Let me just double check. No. These are all of her victims. Where is it? I'm looking for it because they have charcoal smudgings. Here we go. Here's a copy of the chart.
That's what the reporters did for
Right.
photos. It was easier and quicker.
Now, I don't know how this was attractive, but apparently that was what she looked like before she died.
God damn. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah. She was
back in the day. She would get 3 coppers down at the local brothel.
Of course she would. So, there was
head down, ass up. They don't want to see her face.
Oh, she was a bit of a butter. So, some of the best lawyers were involved in the case, like, for her. And there was mystery about the killings, but they were all stories. And she spent the daylight hours hiding in her cell under a blanket, refusing to eat anything but ice cream.
Oh. Poor Jane.
She wore a red blood kimono each night as she passed back and forth, howling like a wolf in her cell and making ungodly noises.
She definitely went Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs.
Right. The sheriff reported that she refused to speak to anyone except her husband, and that when he came to visit, she always met him in a neatly pressed and starched white nurse's uniform. She was found numerous times standing at the bars of her cell, holding them, shouting horrid curses at the street below her window. So Bertha had been paying little attention during the first few weeks of her trial. She appeared listless and withdrawn and sort of like just out of her own head. She stared at her hands or up the wall, seemed lost and alone. But when Jean took the stand, her body demeanor changed abruptly. She became tense, her hands clenched, and she looked at him without blinking.
Because she was nervous of what he was going to say.
The jury was out for 3 hours. However, it was reported it would have been 3 minutes, but one old farmer demanded an eye for an eye, no matter what.
I like that guy. Give him a beer.
Give him a beer. The jury found out that Bertha had killed Ed Brinley, but had been insane at the time and was still committed. She was committed to the State Hospital No. 4 in Farmington. She was eventually found guilty and condemned to life in prison. The trial revealed nothing. It was theater and it served its purpose. So, One of the doctors stated that Bertha probably killed because she wanted to do good and suffering and send souls to heaven. A neat surgical ending, said one doctor. No reputations were seriously damaged, but no one was left alone to hold the bag, not even a black bag. During the years that followed, some people in Catawissa heard about Bertha and would love to cook up a mess of food for her.
What kind of food?
Arsenic laced.
Oh.
So she was working in the hospital's beauty shop. She was not allowed to run food. And a few years later, she wanted to be transferred to kitchen. So she was made a cook.
What?
Once in a while, Jean would see old friends and they heard that he was keeping company with a woman in Eureka. Boy, I bet Bertha would cook up a mess of food for her.
Oh, shit.
So Bertha never found out.
Of course not.
She spent 23 years at the asylum in Farmington, and she died there on August 20th, 1951. Jean arranged for her body to be brought back to Pacific for a very private funeral and was buried in Morse Mill Cemetery. Her grave is unmarked.
Not surprised.
Oh, no.
Right. So the burial cost $266.69. The Jean put down $166.69. The balance is still marked as unpaid.
Oh, fuck.
Jean died in 1957 and took all of the answers with him. Gifford is interred at the Church of God in Abraham Cemetery. She is buried between...
So did he even like get buried next to her?
She's buried between both her husbands. And surrounded by the graves of 8 of her victims.
I don't like that.
So, of course, there's some stuff after, right?
Always.
So there's videos and websites dedicated to the locations where Bertha has said to have murdered her victims, which is known as the Morris Mill Hotel. And it is a popular haunting and ghost hunting location.
Of course it is.
It was also featured on Snapped and Oxygen, and told in Deadly Women Season 6, Episode 1, aired in 2013. Bertha's tale was also recounted in a number of podcasts. Would you like to see my favorite photo?
Sure.
You'll see it right about now. Do you know what that is?
Poison registry?
Poison registry from the pharmacy.
Uh-huh.
Her name is on there several times.
I was about to say.
Let me see if I can... I think I put down 3. Yeah. Right there, right up at the top where it says September 15th, Bertha Gifford. And then 2 more times on there, I think.
Right there, yep, it looks like 4 down, Bertha.
Uh-huh. And then again. But I mean, you see how I was like, there's no way. There's no way. She had way too much premeditation. But that is the story of Bertha Gifford and Arsenic and Odalace. Dun, dun, dun.
Absolutely hated it.
You're welcome. Any tidbits?
I hope she's rotting miserably.
She was rotting before she died. Did you see that picture?
Her face.
Valid.
I mean,
her face was rotting. She was probably using it on her face too.
There was this girl I used to hang out with because, I did a bunch of drugs. She had no fucking teeth. So we used to call her Toothless before, How to Train Your Dragon came out. Her nickname was Toothless. She had no fucking teeth. She used to wear dentures. She would take them out and do some shit. Do some shit for an 8th. When I tell you, I looked at that picture and my brain automatically went, oh my God, it's Toothless. And I went, what? the amount of yak I wanted to vomit.
Understandably.
But I hated researching this. Because...
With that. I would have hated it too.
I mean, one of my friends came over, she came to borrow something, and I'm in the middle of researching this. And I have my search history on one side and my document on the other, and it says, can you die from this amount and this amount of arsenic? Like, how much would you have to... And she goes, dude, the FBI person watching your search history right now is probably going...
Is she okay?
Every so often I have to put into my search history, I promise I'm a writer.
Well, what's funny is I search a bunch of writing prompts and stuff like that for my novels, and I'm just sitting here going, some of the things I research is probably not that good, you know? This was requested. We asked for a request on arsenic, and I was like, I'm going to do Bertha Gifford. So, there's your story on arsenic. I have no idea who did it. It was somebody who had emailed the email that we have. So.
There, we have done your request.
Yeah. So whoever you are, random person. Also, if you guys want to send requests, you can go to our website, which
Please
is...
do. We love the random requests.
Which is goblingrove.godaddy.com. Stay feral. Bite the hand that tries to feed you. And raise hell. Raise hell and raise Dale.
If a woman that looks like she does meth for a living, does meth, like that's just her whole, just meth, don't let her feed you. Don't let her convince you she's a nurse.
Pretty sure she's not, unless it's Nurse John, in which case, totally on point. We love Nurse John. Did you guys hear about that whole debacle about Nurse John?
Yeah, the fact that people were saying that... Wait, are we still recording?
We're still recording. We can still record this because he's not gay.
No, he's straight.
That's how
but
Filipino
people were, losing their shit, like, oh, you're gay baiting.
No!
He never said.
My cousin's mom is from Guam. My aunt is from Guam. My cousin is a gay nurse. And he acts as straight as humanly possible. His brother, on the other hand, very straight. And he acts super flamboyant. They fuck with each other at work. And I'm like, that's how they are.
That's how their personality is.
I love it. That's how their personality is. And it's like, I don't ever question it because you have so many races and so many genders of people acting this sort of way. There's no way. You can't say gay baiting. That's not a thing. Anyways, we stand for Nurse John. Fuck the haters. They don't deserve.
Don't fuck them. They ain't worth it.
Oh God, they probably have STDs. Anyways,
probably.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches for the month of October, per request, no murders.
Grouping for them. The breakdown is mythological creature, fairy, and then sprite.
Oh.
They are also related to the Irish leprechaun, the Kentish clocker, and the English and Scottish brownie, because they're sprites, so sprites have many forms.
Right. It's osmosis, bitch. It ain't fucking fairies. I don't know if you've read Interview with the Vampire.
Weren't they sent over to become brides and everything?
Yes, but there are 5 different names.
Of course not, because, mail order brides.
Right. So this is like the origination of mail order brides to the States.